I'm Justin Boyd.
I'm Brittany Pacheco.
And I'm Gone.
Damn, I love that. And we are the Watchers in the Basement.
Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement. We are here today to discuss the new series, the new animated anthology miniseries. That's a lot to say. That's a mouthful. From Marvel Animation, Eyes of Wakanda. It's funny, there are more words than our episodes in that description. Only 4 episodes of Eyes of Wakanda, but we're gonna go through it. I'm gonna get Brittany's and Frank's thoughts on the show very shortly. But before I do that, I want to hit you with the Eyes of Wakanda facts. Eyes of Wakanda dropped, like I said, all 4 episodes dropped on August 1st, 2025. It is the 14th TV series in the MCU. It is the 16th overall if you consider X-Men in 97 and Spider-Man freshman year. Was that what it's called? What's that Spider-Man animated show called that I really liked?
Freshman year.
Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. That's what it was. Yeah.
You're the one who watched it and you're asking us?
Well, it's been a few months. It's been a little while. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I've slept a few times since. Not a ton, but some since then. So this series is the first series of Phase 6. Overall, it's the second project because Fantastic Four kicked off Phase 6 just 2 weeks ago. But again, why are they dropping this so close to Fantastic Four? I don't understand. It's also the 5th animation project from Marvel Animation. I mentioned What If, X-Men 97, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Eyes of Wakanda, and the shorts I Am Groot, which I've not watched those. So I've watched everything but that. This show is noteworthy for several reasons, but one of them is the fact that it is animation, but it's completely canon to the MCU. It involves the MCU sacred timeline. So everything that happens in this series, unlike What If, and especially with X-Men 97 and Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, those are separate things. This is purely canon. We're building out the lore of Wakanda in this series. It's created by Todd Harris. Executive producer is Ryan Coogler. And the voice cast includes Winnie Harlow, Cress Williams, Patricia Belcher, Larry Herron, Adam Gold, Lynn Whitfield, Jacques Colimon, Jona Xiao, Isaac Robinson Smith, Gary Anthony Williams, Zeke, Alton, Steve Toussaint of House of the Dragon fame, and Anika Noni Rose and Debra Wilson. It's a lot of names, a lot of people. Let's get right to it. Brittany, what'd you think about Eyes of Wakanda?
So it was a little bit of a slow start for me, honestly. Animation wise, I think it was really cool. I like how they adapted these characters. I like just overall how they looked. It kind of gave me, I don't know, Prince of Egypt vibes. Like if Prince of Egypt had been more rounded out instead of just like your 2D. I don't know what particular animation this is called, but overall, I liked the look of everybody. I liked this, the scenery. I did like how, because it is an anthology series, how it jumped from like 1260 BC to the next time period of Troy to, what was it, 1480 or something like that. And it was just interesting because it's like we're having these huge jumps. How is all of this connected? And then finally, when we get to the 4th episode, of course, it does make sense. But I didn't know that this is canon to the MCU. I didn't realize that this is still part of the sacred timeline and such, which kind of leads me to some other questions I have regarding that and the time travel element that is in the 4th episode. Like, how is that not breaking sacred timeline, not creating like a branch, or, what I'm saying? Where's the TVA? Where's the TVA? Why? But anyway, overall, I did eventually start getting into it. It was just a little bit of a slow burn. I thought it was cool with the first episode of following someone who had been part of the Dora Milaje, who, because she couldn't work well with the group, she kind of worked better alone, and therefore was the first of the War Dogs, right? Which we have heard references in Black Panther and Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So I thought that was really cool just to be able to tie it back into stories that we are semi-familiar with. But the ending, how the 4th episode ended with the tie-in ultimately to Black Panther with Eric Stevenson was actually kind of cool. I was like, oh, that's a nice way of putting it, I guess. But yeah, a little bit of a slow burn. glad it was just 4 episodes, 30 minutes apiece. Was able to get through them pretty quickly. But yeah, I mean, it was all right. It was all right.
Frank, what are your thoughts on Eyes of Wakanda?
The premise is pretty dope. I like the premise. I like what it was orchestrated to look like. It just, when I watched the 4 episodes, it gave me Daredevil vibes from the standpoint of like, I think it was cut down from an original arc of maybe 8 to 10 to 12 episodes, maybe. I feel like, and we talked about this yesterday or this morning. I don't have any connection to the characters because there's no large background to these characters.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I should care more about Noni's character. Like she's pretty much acknowledged in like all 4 episodes in some form or fashion as the first, right? And I feel like I should care more. I feel like there should be more dialogue or more screen time for a character of such. And to have the Eyes of Wakanda and wait to episode 4 to show any variation of a Black Panther in this series, I thought was kind of weird too. Like if it's such a big deal that all these artifacts are just scattered across the world, why isn't Black Panther involved? like they made it seem like it was such a doomsday project. And when you get to episode 4, it kind of was, or it kind of is, like because you get a Black Panther from like years into the future. It just seemed like it should have been either a 12 episode arc or a live action series to like give me more background of me caring more about these characters. Again, cinematically, the fighting scenes, like the illustrations are beautiful. It's great. It's grand, right? But it's like you gave me like this anthology series within 4 episodes. Like it was just 2 hours. That's it. Like that's not enough to like really foretell this story that you want us to care about. I feel like there was a lack of committing to whether or not belief, whether it's in Kevin Feige or whoever. Because I feel like if you give Ryan Coogler 10 to 12 episodes of room to tell a story, he's going to knock it out of the park. Like history shows, when Ryan Coogler is given the resources and the investment, he can churn out a beautiful story. And I feel like I don't know if Feige didn't believe in this project, or if it was like a Iger thing or above Feige. I just feel like you got to, if you're gonna truly invest in telling the story that sticks. Because if they don't do a season 2, this could be just lost in the history of pantheon of like Marvel television shows that just have gone and went. And that's my fear about this.
Yeah, I totally agree with you with that. You know, I mentioned a little bit ago about that those Groot shorts that are like 3 minutes a piece, and those are, I mean, though there's nothing to those that are canon or anything like that. I've seen a couple of them, but I'll probably never watch those, right? And this series kind of like, if I didn't watch it for this podcast, you know, if you miss this, it's going to be kind of forgotten unless there is a season 2, unless there's more to come, because it just kind of like they dropped it. Like our last podcast, we talked about Fantastic Four. And every Marvel podcast, I always end it by talking about, hey, what's next? And at that time, this show was slated to come out August 27th. And then like a day later, I look up and it's like coming out August 1st. It's like, again, they're dropping it on the second weekend that they have a movie in the theaters, which I don't understand that strategy. I don't understand, like, it only be 4 episodes. I feel like, I do think that while it was only 4, the 4th episode did connect the other 3 episodes because of the artifacts. You know, we have all the artifacts are, you know, featured in the finale, or, you know, the season finale, or whatever you want to call it. But to me, there's got to be a season 2, or there's got to be something more. I mean, the storyline ends in 1896, right? So obviously there's a lot of room to play with before current day. And like I said, Frank, there's even a future, you know, Black Panther in the finale. So there's a lot of room to add to the lore of Wakanda, which I think is a really good idea. And it's a smart idea. I just, again, the delivery method, the dropping it, you know, just on a Friday, dropping all together, not really promoting it much. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with Marvel Television anymore, and Marvel Animation. It seems like they're They're just kind of like, well, we filmed this stuff, we finally got it done, and we're gonna dump it out there. And like it, cool. If you don't, whatever. If you miss it, oh well.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. It feels like the Ironheart series, this series, or just throwaway projects to like wipe our hands clean. And now that's really getting to the teeth of everything once 2026 comes along with Brand New Day and Doomsday and
Yeah.
whatever else they have planned. It just, I don't know. It just, I just, it's weird because like typically when Ryan Coogler's involved, like Ryan Coogler has successful movies with Marvel. Like he's shown that when you give him something, he can make a story out of it. And it just seemed like if Ryan had signed on, that certain assurances would have been afforded to him of like giving him enough ample, real estate to make a story out of this. And it just seemed like everything was just not half-ass done, but like everything was just shortened last minute. And I don't know, it looks like it had a potential to be a great story, like an anthology series about the history of the Black Panther and the history of Wakanda and like and what it looked like prior to T'Challa and T'Chaka. Like this, that's great. Like there's no reason why this should not have been a live action series. I think that was the original idea, to make a live action series. Like to get, if you would have got that in live action, the technological advances of what Wakanda looks like back then, live action wise, bro, this should have been a hit off top.
Yeah.
So I feel like, I mean, it goes without saying, the show was really about the war dogs of Wakanda, right? And not to counter what Frank's saying, but I think the focus is not to be on the Black Panther or kings and queens of Wakanda. It's to show like the other side, the ones who operate quietly, who are doing the work for Wakanda to protect her secrets and things like that. Because obviously throughout this anthropology series is that they still live in an advanced world, but not in the outside world, obviously. So you see the struggles, obviously, of the character, like the one character, the lion, who had been a war dog in a way, who chose a different path and then was sought out by what would ultimately be like the first war dog, Noni, who had been a Dora Milaje, who it wasn't the right fit, like it wasn't the right outfit for her, because she was able to utilize her skills for something greater, which created this, war dog organization. And I like the fact that we're highlighting another aspect of Wakanda, because I think with the name Eyes of Wakanda, it's kind of ambiguous, because you could then focus on other parts of groups of people within Wakanda and how they serve the country, how they serve their king or queens or whatever. And it could still like be a series that could be developed over time. I just don't know with what stories and how per se, but to give some highlight to the war dogs who had briefly been mentioned in both movies, I think it's actually really cool. I mean, you can just see how infiltrated they were in different countries and different centuries and different events. Like the Battle of Troy, I mean, is huge, right? I mean, it's an epic poem that most of us should know about, and then to kind of put a spin on it and how a Wakandan was friends with Achilles, and it was that friend who ultimately ended Achilles' life. It's very different from the poem that we all have come to know and love. So I think it was just cool. It was a neat twist on different parts of history, or just maybe history that we're not aware of, right? It's different. I personally do like the idea of them highlighting a group of people that we don't know about, because they're not meant to be really known. And how that kind of ties into, like I said, with Eric Stevenson at the very end of the fourth episode, it's just the back of him, but you recognize the museum and him looking at the Wakandan artifact, and how that lined up with the timeline that, again, we're familiar with, because that was something that the future queen had said, if you put this artifact back where it belongs, then our timelines all like, sync up and what have you. It's not the end of Wakanda or their rulers.
Yeah. No, Frankie, you're talking about live action. I think when this was originally announced, and maybe this show's still going to happen, but there was going to be a live action show called World of Wakanda, and I'm not sure if this show became that or if that show's still in production, but that was supposed to be a live action show, and I do think that show probably would have been more of like Wakanda, like current present day, maybe minus T'Challa or minus maybe whoever, Shuri, whoever is the Black Panther at that time. It might be more about just the surrounding world and what's going on there. But I do understand why this is animation because there's so much more you can do with animation. It's more cost prohibitive, especially with like Brittany said, with you're going from the 1200s to ancient Greece to to
From
China
BC to AD, it's
right, yeah, right.
huge.
You're going from like 1260 BC to 1896 AD. You can definitely do a lot more with that, but I do agree with you. I feel like, this would have if this were a live action show, I think this would have had to have been a week to week show, 10 episodes, 8 to 10 episodes minimum. And obviously it would have been a big promotion, I would think so, considering like, Black Panther, the first one was a cultural phenomenon. Like that was, one of those movies that cemented Marvel Studios and Marvel is this like, and the MCU is like this unstoppable money making machine, right? And currently they're not in that situation, but even Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which came out, 3 years ago, I believe, um, it still made, 890 million or whatever, which, currently the movies are not doing that well. The past two movies didn't combine to make that 890 figure. And the current movie now that's in theaters, Fantastic Four, is not doing as well as you would have hoped. So, this is obviously Black Panther is something that is a brand within the MCU that people enjoy. It's a popular brand. And to me, like this show, even at 4 episodes, it could have been a bigger deal. And I think that a lot of people will completely miss this and will skip over it. And it'll be like, years from now, you'll go, oh yeah, did you ever watch that show about, the history of Wakanda through these like war dog secret warriors? And people are like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, yeah, go to Disney Plus. There's a whole thing about all, the past and, there are some connections obviously to the movies that we saw too, which again, those were hit movies. Like, why wouldn't you play that up? Like, I think the last shot of this series is amazing, but it's like, again, like, why wouldn't you make a big deal about that? Especially given like Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler, who, we're later this week, we're talking about another Ryan Coogler project. We're kind of having like a mini Ryan Coogler week here on Here at the Watchers with Sinners. Like, why wouldn't you play up that? I just don't understand their marketing. I don't understand like really what's going on with that company at all anymore.
I mean, did Ryan Coogler himself like promote this show?
I don't know. I haven't looked
Hmm.
at his social media. Maybe he did. I'm not sure, but it to me, like it just like I said, we're way into this stuff, and I didn't know. I told y'all when I found out about it, like last week, like I think it was like last Monday, I found out about it the day after we did our Fantastic Four review, and it's like I'm locked in on this stuff. Pretty, I'm pretty in it, and if I don't know when a show's coming out, like that's not a good sign. So, not really a question there, just kind of my little diatribe there. But I do want to talk about something. Frank, you brought up this in our we talked about this morning about the show a little bit. Very good point, because the premise of this story is, as Brittany kind of explained, is we have this group called the Hatat Zarazi. They're war dogs. We'll call them the war dogs. They're these Wakanda warriors who they carry out these missions around the world. They retrieve these vibranium artifacts throughout history. And Frank, you had a great question of like, how did those artifacts get there? And we didn't really get that question in the series. Just kind of share your thoughts on that, and maybe like to me that's a big miss, and I didn't notice it until you pointed it out. But just talk about that a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, and I think again, I think this is, and this is me just speculating. I think this is a mistake of like scaling down the season, because
Yeah,
it's never clarified or clear that these artifacts are spread across the world if they are originated from Wakanda, or they were like monitor, or like it came up on a radar or something like, hey, his vibranium in Antarctica, his vibranium in China, his vibranium in Greece. Like, let's go get it. Because like in Wakanda Forever, leading up to that movie, it was highly suggested and highly assumed that all the vibranium in the world came from Wakanda, originated from Wakanda. And in Wakanda Forever, we find out that Namor's people, they had vibranium in the ocean and in the seas, and the meter fragmented and fell in other places around the world outside Wakanda. So in the show, it's never clear that if these artifacts were stolen or these artifacts were already submitted in other places around the world and it just popped up on Wakanda's radar and sent the war dogs out there to go retrieve it. That was never clear. And it's like, when you have a storyline of such, there needs to be an origin to it. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we going out and seeking these things? In episode one, the only thing I got from episode one is that this guy named the Lion, he left and he realized that I'm more than a soldier. I want to be free. And he started off his own cult and started kidnapping people to follow him. So it leads me to wonder, was he sent out to find things, and then like, did he find these artifacts and realize, you know what, I don't need Wakanda, I don't need to follow these orders. I have these artifacts, I'm gonna make my own weapons out of these artifacts. That was Killmonger's dream. Eventually, was to sell these weapons, to create weapons to pretty much, take whatever they needed away from the colonizers. That was Killmonger's dream. I just wish they would have been more clear about why these artifacts are spread across the world.
Yeah, no, that's you nailed it. I didn't even think about that till this morning when you mentioned that. I was like, man, that's a big plot hole. And like you said, it's probably because it was 7 or 8 episodes and they cut it down to 4. And
yeah,
if that's the case, that's a bad move, honestly.
Yeah, because episode 2, the Troy episode, when I can't say his name, but like when he gets the artifact, the necklace from Helen, she didn't come across as a thief to me. She came across as, this is a necklace that was given to me by somebody, and I don't know the origins of it, but it's my necklace. Because she gave him up willingly. There was no issues of giving up the necklace, and her and Paris ran away. But it just made me wonder, like, that's why I was like, okay, well, these artifacts just already in these places, and it just show up on the radar. That's a plot hole. Like that needs to be. Now, if you have a season 2 and that gets answered, then cool. But like, you're jumping from different eras of history, and this is becoming the main catalyst of the story, and yet we don't have an origin to why they're doing this. It kind of leaves things ambiguous.
Yeah, no doubt. Brittany, your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with y'all as well. It's extremely unclear and very annoying that we don't have an answer as to how the vibranium is incorporated into these artifacts. If they're straight out of Wakanda, I just made myself laugh. It's just straight out of Compton, straight out of Wakanda, or if like Frank said, these are things that popped up on Wakanda's radar, to which obviously the war dogs are sent out to retrieve, because they are under the understanding that vibranium belongs to Wakanda. But if that meteor had, landed the way that it did, and then just, fragments of the vibranium went to other parts of the earth, does it really belong to Wakanda?
No, but that's an interesting point, because like, you're right. If it is like a meteor thing or whatever, and they've detected where these are and they're going to find them, to me that's a better story, or it makes more sense than just like, you're right, like the way they set it up. And this is what kind of Frank was saying also. It's like, it seems like they're going to these different places in time to get these artifacts because they were taken from Wakanda. But in actuality, it doesn't seem like the different groups of people that have these artifacts even know what they have. Like, it's just like, well, it's a shiny jewel that we put into a dragon's mouth or whatever. Like, they don't even know the power of vibranium. So I don't know. That's to me, I feel like that's such a big plot hole, and like, maybe we're totally missing it somehow, but I don't think so, because there was, again, there's not a whole lot to this series, only 4 episodes.
Yeah. And then on top of that, like, let's say these are artifacts that were fragmented from a meteor that just scattered across the world.
Right.
why are you sending war dogs to go away for 9 years to surveillance something that might not even belong to you?
Right.
That's why I'm confused. Like you're risking people's lives for things that you don't even own, possibly. Like make that make sense. It comes off as arrogant in a way and entitled to be like, oh well, we're Wakanda. We know what's best for this technology. We know what's best to get out of this. You don't deserve to have this, which makes the Wakanda people look very arrogant if that's the case.
I think there was a line in one of the episodes where they said like, "Hey, like we've already seen what these other people have done with their technology, and they're just so destructive that if they had our weaponry and they knew what it was, they would
Mm-hmm.
kill everyone." And they didn't. They said it more eloquently than I just did. But like that was kind of the premise. Which again, cool premise. But like, how did it get there? We need to know that
Right.
part of it because that's really interesting too.
There was a point I was gonna make, and it just completely left me. Just like flew away.
Flew away.
It just
Um,
flew away.
Well, Brittany, I want to ask you about the second episode. We kind of touched on the first one a little bit. Let's talk about the second one, which is Legends and Lies, which is we venture to 1200 BC. We're in the middle of the Trojan War, and we get all kinds of references to things that I know you love because you love the movie Troy.
I
Um,
do.
we've got Achilles, we got Odysseus, we've even got Memnon, who I didn't know this, but apparently that is the name of a Greek figure during that time who our Wakandan character, that's his name while he's there for 9 years trying to get close enough to get this get the vibranium. So are you
Well,
familiar with Memnon?
Well, I think the reason why that name may sound familiar, it's not because of the Trojan War. So Agamemnon was one of the kings
Right.
that
These are
led
two separate people. I looked it up. They're
two separate
different.
people.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. But I'm not too familiar with Memnon. If we had Amber here, I know she knows all things Greek because that is just
Yeah.
her jam. Obviously, she's very excited about, just a shameless plug-in, she's very excited about the Odysseus movie that's coming out, although it's not accurate to the poem. But anyway, that's beside the point. Memnon, when I first heard the name, I went straight to the Scorpion King that has the rock, which is part of like the Mummy franchise and what have you. There is a character in that movie who is like a king, but his name is Memnon. Not sure if this is supposed to be like the same kind of situation, but I highly doubt it. Anyway, I'm not too familiar with Memnon in regards to the Trojan War or things like that. But I thought, well, is Memnon supposed to be like just someone else to focus on other than Patroclus, who was Achilles' friend or cousin in the movie Troy? I because there was a closeness obviously to Achilles and Patroclus, but I wasn't 100% sure about it.
Yeah. Well, what are some of your highlights from this episode? Because I honestly, this was my favorite episode of the 4. I think they're all kind of close to me, but I do like this one. I thought it was like a very, when you're cutting Achilles' heel, literally, like I thought that was a very nice touch.
Mm-hmm.
But what are some of your highlights from this episode?
I mean, just overall having like a known story, that has been sort of adapted to fit in with a Wakandan war dog who is on a mission to retrieve this artifact, and how you have like well-known people named or shown in this episode. So you have King Priam, you have Paris with Helen, who was the reason for this war. By the way, people, go crack open the Iliad. But but anyway, I like the fact that it's a story that we all have, like, in one way or another come to know, have read, or have watched the movie, and then it just, like I said, be adapted to fit into the storyline for this anthology series. I did like the fighting, of course, to showcase how Achilles is supposed to be like the best warrior that has like ever existed. Even in the animation, he was still pretty badass. Of course, Memnon was just so swift in his movements when taking down Achilles, and then when he actually sliced the Achilles tendon, which according to Greek mythology was the one place where the river Styx did not really touch Achilles heel. Thus, when people say you have an Achilles heel, it means that you have a weak spot, right? So that was the weak spot, and he died. But I liked how it also kept true to like Greek traditions, with Memnon putting the coins on the eyes for the ferrymen to take him down to the underworld. Yeah, I think it was cool. I like how they played homage to, you know, that story, and then to keep with the traditions and the culture and what have you. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Frank, what are some of your things you want to mention from this episode? Some highlights from episode 2.
Oh man, I love the Easter egg of the Iron Fist. In
That's
this one.
episode 3.
Oh, I'm sorry, episode 2.
Yeah.
Oh, Greek.
We'll talk about that though. We'll get there. We'll talk about Iron Fist. Yeah.
No, I like Brittany said, I like how they're going through history and like implementing like Wakandan characters in history lore of like great stories, you know, from the Iliad to the Trojan War. And I like how the Wakandans, whether it's in every episode, they don't look overpowered. They look trained. They like this man is fighting Achilles like hand-to-hand combat. Yeah, he had like the vibranium weapon, but like he's fighting a demigod and holding his own. There were times watching the episode, I'm like, is Minmon going to survive this? Like he's literally fighting a god. Like what you know what I'm saying? Like this is crazy. And it's cool, man. I mean, I just wish we had more background of the necklace in that episode, of like how it got there. I do want to say this too. Going to the first 2 episodes, I like how both characters, Noni and Minna, coming back from their mission, they seemed like they lost something coming back.
They were definitely changed for sure.
They'll change. Yeah, they'll change. And not just physically, like Minmon with the limp and Noni losing her eye or the eye injury. It seemed like watching those 2 characters in the first 2 episodes, you kind of have a better understanding why the Lion left in episode 1 and didn't come back. Like, and it's alluded to, like, I think he kind of said in episode 1 too, like, look, man, like, we're free. I'm not under Wakandan control anymore. I'm not just a pawn in Wakanda's political game of like trying to, you know, keep things in check as far as the vibranium. And like Minmon coming back, because when you're a spy for as long as a year or 9 years, you create connections with people. And it's hard to compartmentalize, you know, business from pleasure and like and these relationships that you harbor. And more so Minnon than Noni. Noni seemed like a one-stage mission. She came back in a couple of days. Minnon was gone 9 years. Minmon had a brotherhood with Achilles. Minmon had a brotherhood with like the Greek army for the most part, outside of like some people who didn't believe in him and thought he was a double agent anyways. But you bring that with you, and like that's a part of you. And I like how the show, for the first 2 episodes, most notably in episode 2, it shows you how these war dogs or these humans, they carry scars from what they've experienced being war dogs. And it's not just cut and dry going to do a mission and come back and everything's hunky-dory and like, all right, I'm ready for the next mission. It's like he lost something there, and it's like coming back home. He's been gone for so long. Wakanda's not even home to him. And when he tells Noni, like, look, I need to be sent back out. Like, I'm more alone here than I was out there. And I think that, and again, I wish you would have given me like a season arc of this, not just 4, to like really show how lonely these people are and how exiled they are. Not exiled, but like how far removed from the home they are, to where they have to play this role to where they lose themselves in the process. And it's hard to regain who you were prior to leaving. And I think episode 2 really showed that with Minnon.
Yeah, and I mean, back in those days, if you were gone for 9 years, that's like half your life, probably. You know, it's at least like no, seriously, how long were these people living back in those days? Like, if you got to 20, you're probably doing pretty well. Your old age. And Frank, sticking with you for a second, you mentioned episode 3 about the Iron Fist. Let's get to that. That's episode titled "Lost and Found." The setting is 1400 China, AD, 1400 AD in China, and we have our first entrant of first time we've seen Iron Fist in the MCU. There's another Iron Fist that was in the Netflix shows who might appear in season
We
2
don't
of.
speak of that one.
I think he's gonna be in season 2 of Born Again, but we'll see.
We will wait and see.
Well, let's focus on this Iron Fist. I don't know if this necessarily this is the first Iron Fist ever, but this is the first one we've seen in MCU. Frank, what'd you think about the inclusion of Iron Fist?
I thought that was dope as shit. I screamed at the top of my lungs. I don't know much about Iron Fist outside of like the current iteration of Iron Fist. I had to kind of read up on it leading up to that, but like, I mean, they've had women, they've had men, they've had children carry the Iron Fist mantle. Like these mantles in Marvel, whether it's Black Panther, whether it's Captain America, all these mantles, Iron Fist, all these mantles mean something. It's an esteemed privilege to really be, in that position. And man, look, bro, I had doubt that Bastard was gonna make it out of there alive. I'm like, bro, you're fighting a literal Iron Fist. Like, this is one of the top fighters on the planet, one of the top 5 mantles on the planet. And I had doubt, like watching the episode, I'm like, is she really Iron Fist? Because I went to the physical low. And then once the physical was glowing, I was like, oh shit, she is that bad bitch. Okay. She's that motherfucker. She's mowing down Wakandas all throughout that fortress, like mowing them down, like with ease. And she was mowing them down without the glowing fist, like that. She was in it. But again, I wish we would have gotten more of the background of the backstory between Basha and Jirani. It's like, yeah, we got a little 30-second montage about like how Jirani found him in the snow and how she nursed him back to health and they shared a kiss. But again, like you can't speed through that. You got to build the story up to this, because like, again, they're fighting and as a viewer, I have no connection to this. I'm not like torn. I'm like, these are 2 random motherfuckers I found out about in this episode who are now fighting, it looked like to the death, for this statue that has like a Wakandan jewel inside of it. Like it was just so sped up. Like an Iron Fist character being in this episode should have been a lot bigger than what it was.
Yeah. Brittany, your thoughts on episode 3?
Basha had made a comment to Jirani about, his mission, and he of course didn't mean to hurt her along the way and what have you, but he makes a comment regarding the vibranium that was in the dragon head statue, because he just takes the head. He doesn't take the whole thing. He just takes the head because the tongue is what has vibranium in it. But he says that the vibranium had been stolen from Wakanda, and it's like, but how do we know that to be fact? Who stole it? Like, how does something like that get out of Wakanda? And if that could have been like the opportunity to maybe tie it back into episode 1 with the lion. Like, if the lion decided, the former war dog, if he decided, you know what, F this, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to take all this shit and bring it to the outside world and let it scatter and see what people do with it, right? Because he was deeming himself to be like a god or some nonsense, right? This is it gave me Xerxes from the movie 300, right? The godlike person, whatever. That could have, like I said, that could have been an opportunity for Basha to have given the history, in a sense, a quick history, just to say, thousands of years ago, not a former Wakanda, but just tie it back to that first episode. And that's why these war dogs are out here searching for these artifacts, because it had been stolen from Wakanda. You already made the statement, like, now tie it back,
Yeah.
Like that was my only kind of qualm with this episode. Otherwise, I echo everything that Frank said, because when the camera zoomed in on the mask and you saw something illuminate, but you couldn't see what was illuminating, I literally had no idea what was happening until that one moment right before she charged up her Iron Fist, I was like, oh no way, this is what we're doing. Like, this is the direction that we're going. And I'm like, okay, don't know how to feel about this because I have lots of feelings about the Iron Fist Netflix show. I'm not going to talk about it at all, but it was really cool to see because yeah, she was kicking ass like the entire time. Super cool. Loved it. Shout out to Jona. She carried that episode for sure.
Yeah.
But I liked how they were able to kind of like cover up her before she was discovered by the High Counselor and created the story to make the guy look good, the director or whoever he was, Ebo, look good, and
Right.
then they were able to sneak her out of there, and she, you know, she completed her mission just like Basha completed his. Like, cool. Like, that was a nice little, you know, tie it with a bow and, you know, be done with it. But I really wish they had at least tied back that statement to perhaps that former war dog. Just saying.
Yeah, I again, like, if it wasn't the line that spread all those artifacts, if you're Wakanda and you're apparently this technologically advanced nation that has tech that transcends time, literally transcends time, how the fuck the motherfuckers walk out of Wakanda with artifacts? And why? And who was on watch when all this shit was taken out of Wakanda? That's my question. Like, like throughout, whether it's the animated series or whether it's the MCU live action timeline, like Wakanda is known as a very highly, it's like Fort Knox. It's almost impossible to get in there without being marked. You have to have some type of like ID on your lips or some. You have to have some type of like ID to even get in there. And like this, and they carry like call logs and interest logs of who comes in and out of Wakanda. So if that's the case, how the fuck do all these artifacts just simply just walk out of Wakanda into other nations? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, no, very well said. And just to kind of piggyback on what Brittany said about how they didn't tie back to the first episode, that's kind of been what's happened in the MCU since Endgame, really. Like, you think about the phase 4, 5, and now in 6, like, you think about all these projects, movies, whether it's animated shows or television live action series or the movies, not too many people complain about the characters. We all like the fact that they've expanded it. We added a ton of characters, but they're not connected. There's no connection. And when you have an interconnected universe, when you don't connect the characters in the interconnected universe, like, then what are you doing? Like, so to me, that was kind of just a symptom of what has been the problem with the MCU for the last 5 years. They're just not connecting stuff. And it's not that the characters are bad, or I mean, a lot of the shows are actually not, they're pretty good, but like, they need the connection, because if you took away the connections from from phase 1, 2, and 3, those things wouldn't hold up. Like, if the first movie you saw all the Avengers come together outside the Avengers was like Civil War, you'd be like, that's kind of weird. Like, they haven't really been around each other long enough. Now they're taking sides and fighting. Like, that doesn't really work. Like, um, we like the connected stuff. That's the thing, is like, it's give us all these characters, but just make them play together. That's their whole
Make it
point.
make sense.
Yeah, make it work. And it's like, the way you make these characters work is you put them together. And yeah, that was a problem for the show, is like Frank said, like, you had all these characters, but we don't really know these characters, and we're probably not going to hear about them ever again, potentially. So that leads me to the final episode. And Brittany, I want to get your thoughts on this. The title of the fourth episode, The Last Panther, which you hear that title, you're like, that sounds like that's the series finale, not just the season finale. But the setting for this one is Ethiopia, the city of Adwa in 1896. What'd you think about this finale and how they did tie the 4 episodes together with the artifacts?
So I thought, sorry, I'm doing like quick math real quick.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting just because of we're getting closer to more or less where we currently are with the MCU. I mean, not knowing that this is how it was going to be canon, you know, to the MCU or what have you, but we're getting closer to the time that we're in. And with throwing in the element of someone who is traveling through time and then making the connection from every episode to this one person, because through links of artifacts and links of events or what have you, it's going to lead to this huge catastrophe that will happen 500 years from the episode that they're in. So the episode they're in is 1896. She being the last Panther, who is the last queen of Wakanda, has traveled through time to visit her ancestor to say, in my time, 500 years from now, which would be 2396, there is like this horde that's like destroyed everything. And because Wakanda chose to still stay private, secluded, secret, what have you, they didn't help the rest of the world. So the world perished basically. And they're the last defense against this horde, but then they're also failing. They're struggling because they found through this technology, and we already know this, Wakanda has advanced technology. They're brilliant. And they have the means to create some incredible inventions. But this queen is able to time travel to see the links in these artifacts, and how if one artifact is put out of place, it causes like this catastrophe to happen, right? Which leads me to my question about, if this is supposed to be canon, how does this not mess with the sacred timeline, right? And how does this not create like a branch by her traveling, you know? Um it's just, it's just a question that I now have.
Yeah.
And her having to basically, she gets pulled back into her timeline because obviously the amount of energy, power, or whatever that is allowing her to be in 1896 is weakening. Her body can't sustain another jump basically, but she's also got her own battle to fight back home in her period, with this horde of alien invaders coming in to kill everything. By the way, shout out to the Dora Milaje for like just being badass through and through. If there's any consistency in the story, is that the Dora Milaje are just a bunch of badass women that are always there to defend Wakanda, and Wakanda forever, by the way. So that's just my little side note. But I mean, by this point, finally, we get the connection as to why these four time periods in these 4 episodes. It does, sort of kind of tie and make sense, but it just still leaves me with questions.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, surely this is not Shuri, right? With her having to travel and this and that, what have you. But it's interesting for her, the queen, to appeal to her ancestor, who is the 3rd child in this royal family, who really wants to make a name for himself. Kind of sounds like someone we know, right? From Black Panther, Eric Stevenson. He kind of just felt thrown away. No one in Wakanda sought him out to take care of him, and he wanted to make a name for himself, right? But at least this prince listened, sacrificed his own legacy, if you will, to hopefully bring, a better world for Wakanda and for the rest of the world, right? So, it was really cool, the importance of sacrifice. Even if you don't get to live to see it, I thought that was actually just like a nice story to tell.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And Frank, with this episode, obviously we're getting close to the 1900s. I was wondering, were there any characters here that you're like, okay, I kind of know who this character is, so and so's like great grandfather or something, like, were you kind of putting that together, or is it still too far out from where we know the Black Panther and T'Challa and T'Chaka and all these people? Yeah,
it's so far out because that character in episode 4, he was the third in line. Like, he was
right,
the third son, or 3rd child.
right.
So he had no bearing on the royal line unless his siblings before him had passed away.
Mhm.
So I didn't know anybody. I didn't know the future Black Panther either. The young lady that came back in time.
Yeah.
I guess what I was kind of confused was, so that artifact is what Killmonger had in Black Panther, right?
Yeah.
Why was that artifact so important to be put back where it was found?
So I guess for the salvation of Wakanda in order for it to like, I don't know, because by then when we get Black Panther, that was what, 2018?
Yeah.
2017? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that the year that it was released lines up with whatever year it is in the MCU timeline, because you know how sometimes like the years are off. But I don't know if it's one of those things where that artifact had to be put back in its place so that the series of events can continue, because we only saw what would happen when that artifact was not in place. That's why the queen came back in time, to make sure it went back into place. That way her timeline and then like that timeline would sync up and what have you. I don't have a really clear definitive answer to provide you, other than the fact that it just has to be.
I guess why I'm confused and why I think the writing kind of failed there is that it's one thing, like let's say in Black Panther, that weapon, right, that was found, that was in the museum that Eric Stevens found, if that was the reason why he went to Wakanda, like that was his ticket again to Wakanda, I can see your point, because in Black Panther, that decision by T'Challa to stop Eric Stevens, and that resulted in the decision of working with the World Council to open Wakanda up to the rest of the world, the science research centers and all that stuff. That weapon had no bearing on that. Killmonger was going to come back to Wakanda one way or the other. So I don't know why that weapon was had to be a huge part of like it being where it was at, because Killmonger and Claw were coming. Well, Claw didn't want to go, but Killmonger's plan was to go to Wakanda anyways, because his barcode on his lip was the gateway for him to get into Wakanda, not that weapon. We don't even know if that weapon that was in the series was even brought back to Wakanda in the Black Panther movie. We never saw the weapon again. Like once T'Challa intercepts Killmonger and they're fighting, we never see the weapon again. It's just in the museum. I know he took it, but like we don't know if he came to Wakanda with it. So I don't know why that weapon was, because it played no bearing in T'Challa's decision of opening the world open Wakanda to the world, and that's why I think the writing suffered a little bit.
I agree. I feel like if anything, there had to be some kind of visual object that connected the episode to what would be in the timeline that is Black Panther, to show that an artifact was eventually found and preserved and put into the British Museum that Eric Stevens would look upon.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore that's just like, it's just a visual connection between the two storylines. I don't think it's supposed to serve like any greater purpose of like him taking it with him and like bringing it to Wakanda. I think it's just literally just meant to be a visual bridge between 1896 and then 2018 or whatever year it is. I don't think it's anything more than that. The second thing I want to point out to Frank, because you talked about the Wakandan tattoo on the inside of the lip, mouth, whatever, because that's how Eric identifies that he is Wakandan.
Yeah.
Right.
Why didn't the Queen do something similar to prove that she was one, Wakandan? Because regardless if the tattoo thing wasn't something like done in 1896, it still would have been in the language that they know, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the Wakandan like dialect is called or anything like that.
Yeah.
But that at least would show like advancement and to prove that she was someone of the future, other than just this whole long story about, what she was facing and what have you. And then of course, eventually she does like disappear because she gets pulled back into her timeline. But like that at least could have also tied back into the familiarity that is Black Panther. For those of us who have watched Black Panther, we know that that's like the identification from Wakandan to Wakandan. I don't know.
No, that's a good point. Like showing something that only a Wakanda would know. What was the barcode or the like you said, language and on inside the lip. Yeah. Another thing that would have made more sense was if Killmonger was the bridge, the causality of like Wakanda being open to the world. That would have made more sense in the story was, let's say that the prince, let's say his bloodline branched Killmonger. Let's say that would have
That's
been
what
more.
I was thinking.
That's
Yeah,
That would've
possible.
made more
Yeah,
sense.
100%.
That would've
That's
made
his
more sense, like,
legacy. That's
yeah.
his legacy, as opposed to him retrieving the artifact and bringing it back. I see what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
like
that's
that.
like
that's what
like
I
that's
like
what I thought
that.
they were going for. That because like he was the third son, like he brought that up. I thought that was kind of like the parallel between him and Killmonger, who was
yeah. That would
Ah,
have made more sense to me because Killmonger is the reason why
I'm with it.
T'Challa opened up the Wakanda to the world. If you make it if you make the storyline to be like, hey, third son of Wakanda, we gotta secure your bloodline. We gotta get you back safe because if you don't get back safe, Killmonger's line is never born. Killmonger's dad's never born. His grand like you are the bloodline to Killmonger being the key of bridging the gap between Wakanda and the world. That
Mhm.
would make more sense. Not this fucking weapon that
I can see
had
that.
no connection once we get to Killmonger, you will get into Wakanda.
yeah.
I like that. They should just hire us to be the
I think
writers. My God,
I think that makes so much more sense.
it
Like, I think
does.
yeah,
It does, because like when you're third or second in line in a royal family, like you literally have like no chance in hell
right.
ruling, because unless something happens to the firstborn. And for the third son to sacrifice his own legacy for the betterment of Wakanda, and then you see that, how does that play out with Killmonger, who was like a forgotten son of Wakanda, right? Not by his own doing, but just to kind of tie it back in, like, and make it, I don't know how you could clearly show that from Homeboy, I'm sorry, I say Homeboy because I don't remember what his name is, Tafari,
Safari, yeah.
from his line, how you could, let's say, connect Killmonger to Tafari's bloodline, but that would have been a better story to show like legacy was carried somehow, even though it wasn't in the best light, but nonetheless it was still like part of that line. I don't know.
And then on top of that, you solidify Killmonger's place in Black Panther lore. Because in
There
the
you go.
comic books, Killmonger's not related to T'Challa. He's from a rival Wakandan tribe. They're not related at all. This is just MCU
Yeah.
content dialogue. So that would
Okay.
solidify that storyline even stronger of Eric Killmonger's line amongst you know the Black Panther bloodline.
Okay.
And like you said, because it is an MCU version of Killmonger, I was kind of curious, like, was showing him as the final shot we see, which is his hand painted, beautiful like shot of him from the Black Panther movie that we all saw. Of course, we know the character dies in the movie, but we saw him return in Wakanda Forever. We've seen him in animation. We saw T'Challa in animation. We've actually seen a lot of Black Panther stuff happen in What If, since the movies and stuff. I wonder, like, by showing Killmonger, was that kind of like a half step or a baby step toward of like them saying like, hey, Killmonger might return. We have Secret Wars coming up. We have these like, are we going to see Michael B. Jordan again in
I
this
don't
role?
know. I think it's a tad bit of a reach, other than just like showing again the visual bridge
Yeah.
from an ancestor to more or less present time Black Panther. It is curious to show that particular scene versus something more current, like with Shuri taking on the mantle of Black
Right.
Panther. I'm not sure. I still stand. It's a bit of a reach. If they can make it make sense, great, cool.
Yeah.
Love to see Michael B. Jordan back in that role. I think he was just like made for that role. But I don't know. I don't know. And I'll go back to something Frank said earlier. I feel like the show really was meant to have more episodes to kind of like flesh out characters and stories and things like that. But it's unfortunate that it's just 4 episodes. But if it's entitled Eyes of Wakanda, still stand by what I said earlier about they might focus on different things in a different season. So maybe the next season they could actually focus on the rulers or those who have been Black Panther and what have you, because they're not always going to be the ruler necessarily. T'Chaka
Right.
was still king, but his son T'Challa was Black Panther. So I mean, we
Yeah.
might see different ancestors who have done the same. I don't know. It'd be kind of cool. Be kind of cool. And then
That's a great idea. Yeah, this was
Yeah.
the Warthog season, and then
yeah,
the next season could be the Black Panther season, like where we're just getting the
something.
Black Panther throughout. Because to me, like I mean, obviously it wasn't called Black Panther, but for you're in the world of Wakanda, like you want to see some Black Panther more than we saw. We only saw the Black Panther at the very end
Right.
of episode 4. Frank, what are your thoughts on the Killmonger being shown at the end? And like, do you think there's any kind of chance of him returning in any form or fashion in like Secret Wars or something else?
I do, only because every Ryan Coogler project that he's been a part of, so has Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
And if Ryan Coogler can find a way to get him back into the MCU, he will, because the boys, like he's been in, think about it, he has been in 100% of all Ryan Coogler's projects, and one way or the other, 100%. Like he's batting 9 for 9. Michael B. Jordan's batting 9 for 9 in Ryan Coogler projects, and for it to not be Shuri, for it to not be a T'Challa variant, as that last parting shot, it was Killmonger. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, and the guy who orchestrated that is a guy who's very close to Michael B. Jordan. So, I look, next December when Doomsday come out, if there's a Killmonger variant that's Black Panther, but it's a good Black Panther, it's a good guy fighting in the Secret Wars or whatever, I would not be surprised. I don't think y'all would be either.
No. I think that's what should happen, honestly. I think that's what people would want to see. I mean, because we do know that Black Panther 3 is in development, at least. We're not sure exactly when that's going to come out, whether it be 2026. Like, there's a chance it could come out in between Secret Wars, or in between Doomsday and Secret Wars, although more likely to come out like in 2028 after those movies. And if that happens, we're probably having a whole new T'Challa, and either the kid will be aged up, or they'll, like I said, it'll be a variant or whatever. But I think for Secret Wars, to bring back Michael B. Jordan to play that character, but as the good guy version, I think that would be really cool. And
That'd be cool.
They need some really cool stuff to happen after this year. They've had a tough year financially, at least at the box office. I mean, I think they're still doing well in many other ways, and they've made like $32 billion the box office over the years. So, we're not going to start a GoFundMe for Marvel Studios or for Disney anytime soon. But
well, hell, with all the popcorn buckets you keep buying, they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, they have my money. Like
they have your money.
Yeah, I work for them. I'm doing the dishes every night anyway, just trying to make ends meet. But no, I would love to see that. And we are the watchers here. Of course, we're the watchers in the basement. I want to know something from y'all, because I read on Wikipedia that the Watcher, Oahu, was in this show. And now I've watched the final 2 episodes twice. I did not see him, but he's credited as being in the show. Brittany, did you notice the Watcher? Frank, did you notice him? Because I didn't. And I usually have a pretty keen eye for this stuff. Didn't see him.
I did not.
Yeah. So Brittany, didn't see either?
I'm doing some research. Oh.
Did you find him?
Yep.
Okay. Was he in the episode 4, like in the sky or something? Probably like what happened. Okay. Well,
yeah,
I totally missed it.
He's the most useless character in Marvel history, bro. Like he is nothing but like the old white lady across the street who has a window open, watching all the fuck shit happen in the neighborhood and not doing anything about it. She ain't calling the police. She ain't letting the neighborhood watch people know what's going on. She's just sitting there just watching everything go by. Like I don't understand the makings of this character. You don't intervene. You don't redo. You're just there, just watching shit. Like you are the most useless character in all of comic book history.
So if y'all are watching on YouTube or checking out our video podcasts on Spotify later, of course, as a replay, thank you first and foremost for doing that. I'm about to share the alleged sighting of Uatu, the Watcher from What If here. And apparently there he is in the sky. That does appear to be the 4th episode, where Kuda and Tafari are going to be in like the Wakandan vehicle escaping the events that are happening.
I totally missed that.
I did too.
And the second
did too.
time I was looking for it because I read about it. I'm like, I didn't see that at all. Whereas when he appeared in other stuff, like when he was in X-Men 97, I noticed it right away. When he was in
Hmm.
other things, I noticed it, but this one I did not notice it. So
Yes,
I
and
was going to
this.
fuck his ass up. I really do. He's fucking useless.
Oh, and apparently he was also in I Am Groot and X-Men
okay,
97 and Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
yeah, he's in that. I knew he was in that. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
I've got a link here that I will share with y'all if y'all care to
yeah. Let's
look
see
at
it.
that later. So give me 1 second while I get my life in order. But yeah, this website that I'm about to share is from the Direct. Is that how you say
Gotcha.
it?
Yeah, the
The
direct.
Direct.
Yeah,
The Direct. So this is something that dropped on the 1st with the headline, The Watcher Returns for 5th MCU Disney Plus project. And so scrolling through here, first see his appearance in Eyes of Wakanda. Again, he's from What If, and here he is in I Am Groot. And I Am Groot.
yeah. There we
Right?
go.
Right?
Yeah,
And then X-Men 97, There in the Sky. And finally, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
yeah. He was more noticeable in those other projects than he was in this one. But yeah. Cool
Yeah,
stuff. I
there you
mean,
go.
he does get involved in season 3 of What If, I believe, Brittany, or the finale of season 2. I can't remember exactly.
Great question.
We talked about it. What If had some awesome stuff, but it also had some stuff that was just like whatever, you know. That's what we talked
Still
about.
need the
Yeah.
live action of the 1600s England. That was
Oh yeah,
badass.
that was
Absolutely
phenomenal.
needs to happen.
That would be a $1 billion movie. I truly believe that.
And we will go buy all the popcorn buckets and sippers
Yeah,
for Justin
all
to
that stuff. Yeah,
enjoy.
the review. Yeah. So, let's get final thoughts on Eyes of Wakanda. Frank, anything we didn't talk about you want to mention, or just kind of your final thoughts?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything. Just wish it was more of it.
Yeah,
I watched I was just very unsatisfied. I mean,
yeah,
it was a nice teaser. I feel like I watched a 4-episode teaser to something that could have been a lot bigger than what it was. It felt like a trailer to
mhm.
what's coming out next June or some shit. It just seemed very incomplete to me. Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I've never said that about Ryan Coogler project. Like he's been batting 1,000 for me, and like
Mhm.
I'm gonna put incomplete for him. I don't want to grade this yet. I kind of want to see if something comes out of this, like if this is a 10-episode run next year or in 2027. I don't know. I just right now it's incomplete. Right now, that's the grade for the series.
I think that's fair. I really do. Brittany, your final thoughts on Eyes of Wakanda?
Didn't hate it, didn't love it. It's another mid project for me, honestly. It had its entertaining moments. I do appreciate how fighting scenes are shown in
Mhm.
animation because even in that first episode where Noni was fighting all the followers of the lion, right? You've got some different characters who are clearly from different backgrounds, cultures, what have you, and how she's able to get out of harm's way when that one chick threw the axe and it ends up hitting dude in the forehead, like real big dude in the forehead, and just kills him. I mean, for an animation to not really show like blood and like just death of people, I think it still was well done because it still is a Disney product. But you know, I like the animation for what it was. I think that looked cool. I wish the story was a little bit fleshed out. It connected a little bit better from episode to episode. It definitely had some plot holes, I feel, but it was easy to watch in a way. I mean, 30-minute episodes, 4 episodes,
Mhm.
it's like watching a 2-hour movie, obviously. So it's fine. Will I go back and rewatch it? Probably not, but we've reviewed it.
Yeah, there's lots of cool stuff in it. It's just they've left a lot of stuff on the table, and so if there's a season 2, great. That'll probably make season 1 better, and that'll hopefully flesh out some stuff. And this could be something, you know. But right now, I think Frank said it best. It's incomplete. It's just kind of like it's like a half measure. It's I mean, even the other animated shows, they had more substance to them. Even like What If, like there's some What If episodes that are some of the best stuff in the MCU. And this had some great stuff, but it just didn't. There just wasn't enough there.
And I just find it weird too that they were at Comic-Con. Well, I don't think Marvel was at Comic-Con, but like, why not showcase this?
Yeah.
Why was not no speaking panel about this? Why wasn't like I just feel like it was just a glossed over project, like it was like the side chick that we just keep indoors, like and we don't want nobody else to know about you, and
like the redheaded stepchild.
yeah, it was true like the redheaded stepchild, and like that's what it was. There was no rollout for this, like you said. I remember Justin telling me this in July or June, like, hey, August 27th, we're gonna do a review on this, and then I hear August 1st. I'm like, wait, what? Like it was
No.
it just seemed like it was just kind of like just thrown out there, like here, this is from an old plan that was scrapped. Enjoy it. You'll never see it fucking again after this. We're not gonna do anything else outside of this.
Yeah. Kind of makes you wonder, like for the rest of the year, Marvel wise, really for superhero wise, we got a couple more things, but for Marvel, we've only have two things left. We have Marvel Zombies, which supposedly is coming out October 3rd. We'll see about that. Marvel Zombies, another animated show. It's actually what we saw in season 1 of What If. There was a zombies episode. This is going to be an expansion of that storyline, apparently. And then finally in December, we get Wonder Man, which is a live action show. Looks like it's pretty interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets pushed to next year. I don't know. We'll see. I think it's or it might be like worst case scenario where it's like coming out in December, but they drop it all in one day, which I just don't think is conducive to this kind of content. But yeah, we'll see about that. As far as the rest of the year, superhero wise, there's two other things that we'll probably be talking about quite a bit. First up is Peacemaker. Peacemaker season 2 drops on August 21st, and then of course Gen V season 2 is September 17th. So we'll be doing that stuff in September. So there's a few things left on the superhero calendar for the year, but not a ton left after the summer and everything. So anyway, that's what's coming next. So now you know what we thought about Eyes of Wakanda. We want to know what you thought about it. And Brittany, how can people let us know?
Well, people have let us know in today's live chat. So we encourage those who have not participated in a live chat to please do so. Shout out to King B. Johnson and M Moves for joining us in today's chat. We always appreciate your support. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 500 subscribers and we are getting that much closer. Please consider subscribing, hit that notification bell, and don't forget to hit that like button. It helps out our channel greatly. If you're watching the replay, leave a comment down below on your thoughts for Eyes of Wakanda, and we'll be sure to reply. Follow all of our social media links in the description box down below. And lastly, check out our audio podcast available to you on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Give us a follow and give us a 5-star rating.
Thank you, Brittany. Appreciate it. Yeah, we'll be back later this week. Thursday, we're talking about Sinners. I finally watched the movie over the weekend.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're talking about that movie. Another Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan team up. So looking forward to that one. Please join us. That movie's on HBO Max right now. So if you haven't seen it, like was the case with me a few days ago, watch it. Join us for our review of it on Thursday. So,
and I'm just going to throw it in here that Wednesday, the Netflix show is dropping tomorrow on Wednesday. So hopefully myself, Amber, and Tristan will join y'all, or you can join us as we break down the season 2 review of Wednesday. One of my favorite shows. I binged it twice, like back to back when it dropped. So I'm hoping season 2 doesn't disappoint. So be on the lookout for that as well. But once again, subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way you will be alerted to the next time we go live.
Yeah. So thanks, Brittany. Thanks, Frank. So for those two, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Wakanda forever.